Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Today, we're checking out an all-new guitar, bass, and vocal effects processor and amp modeler from Headrush. Let's get started. I'm very excited to introduce you to Headrush Prime, this unit here on the table in front of me. In this video, I'll give you an overview of the Headrush Prime. We'll talk about some of its features, some of the things it can do. We'll listen to some of the sounds, and then we'll be coming back with more videos later that explore some of the other capabilities, as well as taking a deeper dive into everything that goes on within the Headrush Prime. Headrush refers to Prime as a guitar and bass effects processor, an amp modeler, as well as a vocal processor. But man, you could really call this a guitar workstation because it's ideal for use on stage. It makes an exceptional practice tool, as we'll see later. It allows you capabilities for recording and playing back in your studio, for reamping. We've got total MIDI control. You can clone your amplifiers if you want to capture their exact sound into this. And at the price that it's coming in at, I'm expecting this to be really disruptive in the market. Now with the Headrush Prime, everything centers right around this 7-inch touchscreen here, and this is based on proprietary patent-pending technology. Super cool. You can obviously click, you can select, you can drag and drop, you can do all those things that you expect to do on a touchscreen, swipe up and down and so on. Plus, we have 3 parameter controls here. As we'll see later, we can access a ton of parameters instantly using those. The data entry, scroll, and enter control right here. Separate headphone volume, separate volume control for the aux input on the back panel so you can play along with tracks coming from your external device. And then of course we have the main output volume as well. The back panel is loaded with input and output connections. 2 of those are USB ports. We've got both a USB-A and a USB-B port on the back panel. The USB-A port is used to expand the storage capability of the Headrush. You can plug a flash drive into that, for example. The USB-B port connects to your computer. You can use it for transferring data back and forth, for importing and exporting, as well as turning the Headrush Prime into an audio interface for recording and reamping. As expected, we have a guitar and bass input. We also have a microphone XLR input with 48-volt phantom power, and there's an associated gain control for that as well. There's a stereo effects loop that allows you to either connect external pedals or to use this with a 4-cable method, and we have 2 sets of outputs. The main XLR outputs, which of course are a balanced signal, you'd feed those to an FR speaker system or straight into your DAW, for example. There also are 2 1/4-inch outputs, and these are balanced outputs that can be used at either amp level or line level. As I mentioned, we have an aux input, that's a stereo 1/8-inch jack, and we also have a headphone output, also a stereo 1/8-inch jack. Rounding things out, we have a 5-pin MIDI input and a 5-pin MIDI output or through. You can select the function of that using the system settings. Other features of the physical unit itself include 12 foot switches, and as we'll see, those serve a wide variety of different functions. Everything from selecting rigs, which are what the Headrush Prime calls presets, to selecting songs and set lists, to turning effects on and off, and much more. Last but not least, we have an expression pedal, and that does have a toe switch included, and we can switch that between 2 functions. So for example, A could be set up as a volume pedal, push down on the toe, and this could become a wah pedal. There's also a hands-free editing mode that allows you to use the expression pedal to set parameter values, and we'll take a look at that a little later as well. The Headrush Prime includes a huge, ever-expanding library of effects, amp models, mic models, and more. Plus, you can load IRs in as well. It comes loaded with 300 IRs on board right out of the box, and you can also import your own IRs up to 2048 samples in length. But a big feature of the Headrush Prime is what's called amp cloning. Now, this allows you to capture the sound of your amplifier or a drive pedal, a fuzz, a distortion, an overdrive, and so on. It's very easy to capture your own clones. It's a step-by-step process, and the unit actually guides you right through that. Just hook things up, and it just takes a few minutes to capture a clone. One of the greatest features of the Headrush Prime is how easy it is to use, and that really centers around this 7-inch touchscreen. You can see here I've got a rig displayed, and right away on the right side of the screen you can see I've got 2 parameters instantly accessible, the overall rig volume and the overall rig width. Now as I select other items on screen, these parameters will change. When you select an item on screen, its parameters are automatically mapped over to these controls. So we'll select this. You can see we've got distortion level, cut, and volume. If you've got more parameters than will fit with those 3, you can scroll up so you can access all of them very easily. For deeper editing, double-click an item. So I double-click the guitar input there. You can see we can choose presets. We can also choose whether the parameters are locked or unlocked. We have a level control, which allows us to dial in the initial gain for your guitar input. There's gating here and so on. Now if we cancel out of this, we'll go back to our main screen. Now the same thing is true if we double click on a pedal, for example. We get the parameters there. We can go back. We can also select an amplifier. Double click, see the parameters, volume, treble, bass, and so on. We can cancel out. We could also look at our IR, double click that. We can choose from the many IRs that are loaded in. We happen to be looking at just a folder that includes these from Chop Tones. Cancel that, we can cancel back out, and so on. Now we also can turn blocks on and off. A block contains a processor, an amplifier, an IR, so on. There are several ways to do that using the switch here at the bottom. So when we select a block, we can turn the tremolo, for example, on and off that way. We also have control over our output parameters. Double click there, we can see the rig volume, width, and so on. Now setting up a rig or a preset is very, very simple. First of all, you can edit an existing rig if you want to. You can also choose the signal path. For guitar, we have a straight path, a split in the middle, an immediate split right when you plug in, or a dual straight path, a parallel path. Same thing for vocals. We have a straight path and a dual straight path. Select the one that you want, and then working with the blocks or the individual processors is very simple. You can add a new block. So we can choose from all the different types. We've got tons of, for example, amplifiers. Of course, we've got cabinet IRs, we've got amp clones, we've got all types of different effects that we can choose among. There's so much here. So it's very easy to load a new block in. You can rearrange the signal by simply clicking and dragging. The unit will adjust itself for you, move things around to make that work. As you can see, when you click and hold, you can also drag to the bottom to delete a particular block. Very simple. Now there are 5 modes for operating the Headrush. What we're looking at right here is called rig mode because we're looking at individual rigs, and in this case we can bank up or bank down through groups of 4 rigs. We can also move individually through rigs. We can choose rigs by selecting the name and scrolling back and forth this way, or if you drag down, a list of all the rigs shows up on screen and you can instantly select the rig that you want. So that's rig mode. Now if we press and hold this button, we'll have a choice of the other modes. Stomp mode allows us to turn the individual blocks on and off by stepping on a foot switch. So for example, I can turn on the tape echo. I can turn on the chorus. Now you hear that tail extending there, and we can actually keep that in place as we move from rig to rig using this tail selection here. We also have 2 scenes here. We've got a rhythm scene that we've been listening to, and this is the lead scene. Going back to our modes, we already looked at rig mode where we look at the individual presets. I find hybrid mode to be very useful for live performance. So if we select that, the top buttons here become rigs and the bottom button becomes stomps. So now within a rig, we can turn, for example, the tape echo on and off. If we go to the second rig, we've got 3 different presets for scenes, as well as chorus on and off. On the third rig, 2 different scenes. We can turn the M104 delay on and off, or the chorus on and off here. So that allows us a combination of being able to move quickly between rigs, but also gives us access to individual stomps or to different scenes. Going back to our modes, the next is setlist mode. Now you can arrange your songs into set lists. Very convenient for live performance again. And once you select a song in a set list, now we can access the rigs that make up that song. So you can see this song here, for example, has 32 different rigs associated with it. So we can step through all of the sounds that are necessary for that particular song. So the hierarchy is rigs are the preset. The songs organize those presets into groups that are used for particular songs, and then the set lists organize your individual songs. So there's a hierarchy stepping down there. One other thing I want to show you here, if we go into stomp mode, let's select our tape echo. We'll turn that on. We'll turn that on, and now if I hold that switch, we go into hands-free editing mode. And you can see here the parameters are on these switches at the top, and now the expression pedal allows us to adjust those parameters. Very convenient if you've got the Headrush Prime on the floor in front of you and you don't want to be bending over to adjust parameters during a performance, during a session, or just when you're practicing. There's a ton more that we can do with the Headrush Prime, and to access all those additional features, we can push the menu button here at the top, and this gives a selection of everything that we can work on within the unit. So if we hit My Rig, we'll go back to our rig display there. If we come back to the menu, we can also look at browsing through folders for everything that's contained here. That'd be IRs, it'd be clones, it'd be all the data that makes up what's happening inside the Headrush Prime. We can access set lists. Go back to our menu. We've got song view. We've got an onboard tuner, which you can access either there or by holding the lower right button. Will take us into tuner mode. Exit back out of that. We've got an onboard looper. Now this looper is really powerful. So first of all, you can have loops up to 5 minutes in length, and there's a total of 20 minutes of loop time available and up to 50 layers for those loops. As you can see, the foot switches give us control over the speed of playback, half speed, 2 times speed. We can change the length, half or double, reverse. We can start, stop, record, insert, and so on. So there's lots we can do using this looper. And you also can save your loops as WAV files and export them to your computer. Or you can import files, WAV files, and use those as loops within the Headrush Prime, which basically can turn this into a backing track player. Now, in addition to what you see here, we can also choose where the loop occurs in the signal path, either at the beginning of the signal path, so you could loop something and play it through all the effects, or at the end of the signal path, so it occurs after all the effects processing. One additional feature with the looper is that it can be synced to MIDI, so you could lock this up to your entire system and have it play right along in perfect synchronization. This menu screen is also where we do firmware updates. We can do USB transfers here. We can lock the screen so that you can't accidentally change parameters and settings. We also have mic dry out, and this is a nice feature if you're really using the Headrush for heavy guitar processing and you don't want to run the microphone through effects, or you don't have enough effects power left to drive something for the mic. You can run it directly back out with no effects added. We've got an overall global EQ, and this is useful if you're playing multiple venues and you're going back to the same venues, or if you just need to adjust because you go into a venue that sounds way brighter than you're used to or when you programmed your settings. So you can very quickly tailor the sound of the Headrush Prime to your particular venue and application. You can also assign that EQ to different outputs, and you can reset the whole thing as well. So we could assign that to the XLR outs or the 1/4 inch outs. We have global settings, and there's a ton of adjustments you can make here to the performance and how the Headrush Prime is really operating, everything from the LCD brightness to how MIDI is set up, for example. Now, I sort of skipped these settings over here on the left, and that's because that's the actual things you're going to be using with the Headrush Prime. So we've got our rigs that we already looked at. We also have the practice tool, and this is tremendously powerful. Now, the practice tool allows you to load a track in, a WAV file, into the Headrush Prime. You can change the speed of it. You can change the pitch of it as well to match your tuning, or if you want to try different keys. You can set up loops within there if you want to transcribe or work on just a small section. There's so much you can do with those song tracks. It's a really powerful tool for practicing. The next selection here on the left is Headrush Cloud, and that brings me to another important point. The Headrush Prime has Wi-Fi built in. So we can use Wi-Fi to access the Headrush Cloud, which is where you can upload and download amp clones, you can upload and download presets, and so on. That's a free service that you can take advantage of from right within the Headrush Prime. Finally, we have the amp cloner, and again, this is a very important feature of the Headrush Prime because it allows you to clone the sound of your actual amplifier. Hook your amplifier up, put a microphone in front of the speaker, or connect a drive pedal, a fuzz, an overdrive, or distortion, and capture its sound right into the Headrush, and then use those sounds within your rigs. It's a really powerful feature that allows you to get exactly the selection of amps that you want. And again, using Headrush Cloud, you can use Wi-Fi to upload and download clones so you have access to a huge library, a huge array of different amplifiers that you can use inside the Headrush. Now, it's a very simple process. When you proceed with this, it'll tell you how to hook everything up. It'll tell you step by step what you need to do. You can A/B between the clone and the original amp. You can adjust settings and so on. The process takes just a few minutes. It's very simple. So I think you're getting the idea. The Headrush Prime is tremendously powerful. It does so much, and it makes a great centerpiece for your practice rig at home, for a rehearsal setup, for live performance, in the studio, for sound design. And again, you can use it with bass, you can use it with guitar, and you can use it with vocals as well, so it's tremendously versatile. And as you've seen, Headrush Prime is super easy to use. Everything centers right around this 7-inch touchscreen. It's all very graphic. The user interface is simple and intuitive. I think you're going to find you rarely need to crack the manual because as you're working through things, first of all, there are multiple ways to do things, but they all make perfect sense. It's laid out really well, and the whole user interface is very intuitive. Now, as I mentioned, this is just an overview. We'll be coming back with a deep dive on the Headrush Prime. We'll also have some videos on other features like amp cloning and those kinds of things. And for complete information, visit the product page at sweetwater.com or talk to your Sweetwater sales engineer. They can give you all the info you need on the Headrush Prime. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.